Hello, everybody, and welcome to Edusations. Very excited to have one of my favorite people in my entire PLN on today, Melissa from New York. Melissa, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people watching today?
Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Asztalos. I teach seventh grade science in New York State in a little suburb of Syracuse. I've been in the education game for 15 years, and I've had my own classroom for 12. So kind of in that halfway point in my career, and I'm super excited to be here. Phil is also one of my favorite people in my PLN.
So if you live near Syracuse, does that make you like a Syracuse football fan as well?
Technically, yes, although I do not do the whole sports thing.
Not a loyal following to any team in particular. Okay.
No, but I have the shirt, so when we do Spirit Day, I can pull on my Syracuse shirt and pretend I'm a fan for a day. But yeah,
Anything for a pair of jeans, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the reasons why I really enjoy talking to Melissa is, Melissa, you have a great perspective on growth mindset, and so I'd like for you to maybe share with the people what is your vision of a growth mindset, and how did this passion come about that it's something that you are a very fiery advocate of on the Twitter sphere?
It kind of came about kind of organically. I was thinking about, okay, what do I do now? These kids are coming into my room, and some of them get it and some of them don't. And you're a middle school guy, so seventh grade is that year. You
Yes.
have 1 year as a seventh grade teacher to get them to get it. And I feel like they've got to make that turnaround from elementary to secondary. And I was trying to think about, well, what is it I'm missing? Because some of the kids get it, and some of the kids were so willing to give up. And I started searching around, and I ended up going to a workshop on growth mindset at our local BOCES. I love PD. If there's a workshop and there's no cost, I am there.
Done.
And I took it, and I was like, this is it. So I bought the Carol Dweck book, and I read it cover to cover. And then I'm like, okay, there has to be more. And I kind of do this thing where I go down the rabbit hole. As soon as I discover something, I want to know more. So I start books, and I start Googling and searching blogs and watching YouTube videos. And before I know it, I'm like in it, and then I try to figure out, okay, how am I going to bring this to my classroom? Because it started to become really clear that it's not the smart kids who are going to be successful. It's the kids who can get it, know how to fix things when they go wrong. And when the going gets tough, don't go, I'm out, but go, okay, let's dig in. And I needed my kids to dig in. And I felt like this was the way to get them to dig in, to work hard, and to not give up, because science is tough. And a lot of kids come in saying, I don't do science. So it was that whole, what can I do to get them to realize anybody can do science?
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, I don't do science, because the science teacher on my seventh grade team, she and I have a lot of conversations because students frequently come into our classes and say, I'm not good at science, or I'm not good at history. And it's almost always our two classes paired together. I'm not good at that. You can be very good at it. It just takes work. It takes, that growth mindset, that willingness to say, here's a problem. How can I overcome those obstacles? And you said something else too that I love, talking about how, seventh grade is that year. On back to school night, I'm always telling parents, I think that if we all had time machines, I can't think of a single one of us that would go back and say, I'd really love to go back and experience seventh grade all over again. It's a really tough year.
No.
Yeah.
And I had a tough seventh grade year because I moved to a new school before I started seventh grade. So when I think back to seventh grade for me, I was in a completely new situation. We moved to a new state, total new place. I knew no one. So when we have new kids move in seventh grade, I'm always like, I get you. I feel you. It will get better. It's okay.
My people.
Yeah. I'm like, I've been there.
So are you not originally from, but did you move to New York in seventh grade, or did that come later in life?
My dad was in the Canadian military. I had so I was born in Canada in a teeny tiny little town called Goose Bay, Labrador. And he moved from base to base. So I spent most of my K through 6 years in Canada in different Canadian public schools. And then when my dad retired, my mom's from here. So my mom's American, my dad's Canadian. They met. There's a whole romantic love story. And we ended up moving back here close to my mom's family. So I had an interesting, growing up, and we did a lot of cool things. So I wouldn't give that up. But my parents wanted me to have a normal secondary education life.
That's cool. Sounds like a story Nicholas Sparks could write in his upcoming feature films. So, and you may be able to answer this, may not be able to answer it, depending on how much you noticed it. It's really cool that you went to the Canadian school and then you went to the American school. Do you remember any like particular differences between them besides like, this is primary and this is secondary education?
It depends on where I went. I went to a little school on Vancouver Island where the vice principal was my 5th grade teacher, and the principal taught the French because it was such a small school that the administration actually taught some of the classes. So, and we didn't really there was no lunch there. It was all you bring your own lunch, but it was just, so it was a lot more relaxed, but I think that was also a different time. I think if you go there now, it would be a lot like American schools. We're talking about the 80s where education was kind of like, do what you want.
Right. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
So would you say that whenever you were a student at that time that you would have had more of a fixed mindset or more of a growth mindset in particular?
Oh, well, I loved school. I thought school, I loved my teachers. I knew I wanted to be a teacher from kindergarten. I have 2 little brothers, and we used to play school. Like, that's what we did. We had desks, and I had a little, like, chalkboard, and we would go over letters and stuff, and I would teach to my, like, animals. And it was that whole time where try it, and there was no state testing, there was no grades. It was just do what you want to do, and I feel like we've gotten away from that, but I think there's ways you can bring it back. And I feel like I really want to go back to the time when it was about the learning. And I feel like it's not that way anymore. It's not about the learning. It's okay. How can we quantify it? And how can we measure it in some way? When sometimes learning is just going down that rabbit hole. And I feel like sometimes we don't get that opportunity anymore.
Yeah, I feel like you were able to build in some of those opportunities though with your goal setting, because it doesn't seem like the way that you talk about goal setting, it does not seem like it's like a quantified, you will complete this task, and this task. It seems a lot more fluid. What does that look like in your room?
I probably have some disagreement because I've seen some goal setters are like, you have to quantify, I'm going to get a 90 on the test, where I would just tell the kids, okay, we're going to set a big goal. So every marking period, I would have them set a goal. And I would specifically tell them it doesn't have to be a science class goal. This is your goal for the marking period. It could be in gym. It could be on the football field. It could be all classes, 2 classes. And I said it has to be a SMART goal. And those SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. But I didn't give them any more guidance than that. And we would reflect on it periodically. And I didn't really want to have them focus necessarily on grades. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But I really wanted it to be a goal where it was something for them to work for, and it was something for them to really grasp onto. And I think I realized some of my mistakes, like I need to have them go back and reflect more often. Like I would sometimes just get so into my curriculum, they'd be like, oh yeah, we haven't looked at our learning journals in a while. Hey kids, let's pull those out. And I would tell them, I'm like, hey, we're learning some new things. But it was just about getting that reflection of, okay, here's where I am, here's where I need to go. How am I going to get there? And that's what 7th grade, I think, they don't always get. It's that, how do I get there? Hey, you want an A on the test? What do you have to do?
Exactly.
You can't just show up on that day. And it was that pre-reflection. And then I'd always have them reflect after a test. Okay, how much did you study? What did you use? What did you do? Look at your grade now. Does your grade reflect how much effort you put forth? And most of them were like, yeah, I get an 85 on that test. And I'd be like, well, if you'd studied more than an hour, and I'm looking at their own reflection, it's getting them to see that there's a correlation between hard work, purposeful effort, and attaining that goal. Not just, oh, I'm going to sit here and flip through my packet. It's always that, okay, what are you going to do?
Right. I'm not going to blindly stare at page from the textbook.
Yeah, it's. I was always telling them, you got to make your brain work. And we talk about the elastic plastic. I'd show them a video about how your brain is plastic. And we talk about how neurons are always firing and your brain is not static. We used to think you are what you are. That IQ test was based on that idea that, oh, you have this IQ, this is your stock or your lot in life. And now we know it's not like that.
Right.
The brain can change. You can learn new things. You can learn a new skill, a new talent at any age. And it's getting them to see that, okay, you're not good at science yet. That big yet word, that's the big thing. I tell them there is no science gene. There is no math gene. There is no genetic predisposition to be good at science. And if you talk to scientists who, when they were younger, they'll probably all tell you, well, they just liked to learn new things. And it wasn't about being the smartest or the best at it. It was just they liked it, so they spent more time on it.
One of the stories I always love to tell students about is related to Thomas Edison, because Thomas Edison, his administration or his teachers told his parents, listen, your kid's probably not going to do anything with his life. But he worked hard, and then he eventually found ways to hardly work through those tasks as well. But he was able to overcome a lot of those obstacles because he had that growth mindset, that passion to work harder. And how many stories are there of people that have flunked out of this school or that school that went on to do something absolutely incredible because they had that purposeful effort at the end as well. Something we can't forget as educators.
Yeah. Well, I spend a good few days talking growth mindset at the beginning of the year. I devote, I'd say, about 3 classes, and all we do is talk growth mindset. I show videos. I think I've shared a couple of them on Twitter. And we just talk about how there's lots of people who didn't succeed in life. There's Oprah, Jordan, although I can't really use Michael Jordan so much anymore because they don't really know who it is.
They don't get the reference.
Yeah, but Disney and even Lincoln, there's so many stories from history where if people had listened to people saying you can't do that, who knows what would be different in our world, because they're the ones who said, well, I'm just going to try harder. I really think I can do this, so I'm not going to give up, and you guys can go away, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's that idea that you got to believe in yourself first.
Yeah. And that's the key to it all, isn't it? Like, before somebody else can believe in you, you need to be able to have a little bit of confidence in yourself to fully maximize that potential, I would say. Like I consider us as educators to be, in a lot of cases, the cheerleaders and the biggest fans. But it's eventually the student has to also get up off the bench and go out and make that fourth quarter touchdown pass too, and believe that they can do that in the end. I think there's power behind that.
Yeah, there's that saying that teachers shouldn't be working harder than their students. And I really, talk about that I've already passed 7th grade. I tell them all the time, sometimes in frustration, I'm like, guys, I already did 7th grade. I passed it. I moved on. You haven't yet. So you got to put in the effort to get to the end of 7th grade.
Right.
I've already done it. I don't need to do all this work again, but you guys got to put the work in. I'm there to support you, to back you, to give you what you need, but you got to pick up the pen.
Right. So, Melissa, outside, I think I'm picking up a little bit of echo. Test. All right, cool. So you're in this program down in Richmond or you've been accepted to this program down in Richmond that sounds pretty awesome. Can you describe that to me in a little bit more detail? That way those that are watching can also learn about it.
I'm still trying to figure out maybe what it is, but from what I read about, it's basically STEM camp for teachers. It's put on by the Missile Defense Agency. I love PD in the summer, so I'm always looking for it. A few years ago, I went to the U.S. Naval Academy and did some training there, and it's just a chance for me to be a student and learn new skills. And we're going to go to a couple naval bases, and it's 24 teachers accepted into this program, and it's just it's an opportunity for me to hone my craft, to refine my craft. I consider my summertime time to dig in. I dig deep. I dive deep. I want to
take summer off.
No. I mean, I don't have kids. I have a dog and 2 cats. So my husband is very, very supportive because he travels for work during the year. But in the summer, I pick 1 or 2 programs. This year I'm just doing the 1, and I just go and I can immerse myself in it. And I think it just makes me a better teacher because I get to put myself in the student's position to learn new things. And some things I am awful at. Some things they present, I'm like, wow. And I even tell my kids when we talk about our summers, and I show pictures and I talk about things that I didn't do well at all because I'm learning, and they like to see that we're lead learners, not just stand in front of a class.
Yeah, not being the sage on the stage all the time, but
Yeah.
we get in those trenches fighting against ignorance all the time. Um, Students love hearing about that, and people certainly like to hear the stories of your students as well. You had a pretty tough year that that you self-described regarding a couple members or maybe a whole portion of the student population. What were some circumstances around that, and how were you able to conquer them or able to continue to seek to build relationships through that as well?
Yeah, this was one of those years where the sixth grade teachers come to you at the end of the year and go, "Best of luck to you. We're sending you a great group." And you're like, and it happens every once in a while. And I'm always the first one to be like, seventh grade is different. They mature a lot over the summer.
Right.
Let's give them a chance. And the year started off okay. And then all of a sudden, you kind of see the effort waned and you assign some work to do. And some of the kids would just come in and say, "Oh, I didn't do it." There was no like, "Oh, I couldn't connect to Google." Where in pre seventh graders are the first ones to create these elaborate stories, like their
Hmm.
dog not only ate their homework, but took their cell phone and buried it in the backyard. And I love a good seventh grade, "Why I didn't do my homework" story because they're great. But this year it was like, I didn't do it. So I started having to we had to do more work in class because if they're not going to do it at home and they're not going to do the work, they got to learn it. And
Right.
I started that's when I started, honestly, that's when I started into Twitter because I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know what to do. Where am I going to go? And somebody was talking at an ed camp about Twitter, and I was like, yeah, but that's all about politics and Kim Kardashian and everybody posting. I'm like, I can't do that. And then I found the ed side of it, and I'm like, there's people like me. And I
Where has this
just,
been all my life?
yeah. So I just started like, I need some help, and I got some good ideas. I found some tech tools, and I learned some new skills that I think make me a better teacher. Was it easy? No. And did everybody succeed as much as I would like them to? Absolutely not. But I think there was growth happen, and my end of the year feedback, a lot of the students had nice things to say, and I know I reached a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think that's the key part too, is that you didn't just give up whenever those times started. You talk a lot about growth mindset, but here's a clear example of where you saw a problem, you saw a what could have been a roadblock to others. You said, "No, I'm not giving up on these kids. I believe they can do this." That's awesome.
Well, we can't, I mean, 180 days. You can't get to 90 and be like, well, they're a lost cause. I'm just going to sit at my desk, drink some
Exactly.
coffee, read a
Exactly.
textbook. You can't.
Hmm. Yeah, it amazes me sometimes how so quickly sometimes it the year the year for some feel like a lost cause whenever or um people will on the first day of school say, well, after today just 179 more. I've started to look at it as I only have 179 days left to make a difference. This is it, because once they leave my classroom they won't be a student of mine again, and we want to make these purposeful influences and these meaningful impacts on their lives as well, you know?
Yeah, I mean, why else did we get into education? We didn't get into
Exactly.
teaching because we wanted, I know there's some that say summers off are great, and that's great. I got into education because I felt like it was the best and clearest way to make a difference in the lives of as many people as possible. So if you think about a middle school teacher, I teach 85 students a year. So let's round it to 100. You have 100 students every year. So let's say in your career, I'm 15 years in. So that's 1,500 students that I've had contact with, approximately, give or take. And now I've got 1,500 students. If a fraction of those go on and do remarkable things because of something I taught them about digging in or something,
Mhm.
then what a difference I can make in the world by impacting others. And there's a graphic I saw once about the impact of teachers. It can be exponential because we reach one student and then they can in turn reach others. So as teachers, I think sometimes we sell ourselves short because we just teach, but we have a great power to really affect and change the trajectory of students' lives by
Mm.
giving them knowledge which nobody can take away from.
Yeah.
Once you learn something, it's in here. Nobody can take that away from you. It's a powerful skill that I think we don't want to discount.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We can't afford to discount it for where the future is going. I think about what just happened over in Thailand with getting the caves out, and the knowledge it took to be able to
Yeah.
think and plan this stuff out. That's power. That's something that we don't want to discount, and we don't want to be able to stop our future students from being able to go and solve a problem like that, or solve another problem elsewhere in addition.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
that was my soapbox moment.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It was great, and we've talked a lot about things related to education wise. We're starting to get to the end of the show, so I want to do our high fives. This is just a really simple way for people to get to know you.
All right, I'm ready.
Education. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First one: tacos or burritos?
I'll go with tacos.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you eat at Chipotle?
I really haven't. My husband likes it. No,
Okay.
I like a simple taco at home.
Okay, I respect that. LB, my wife is a big taco fan. I'm more a burrito guy myself. Second one: cars or trucks?
Well, my husband owns a truck,
Okay.
and he won't let me drive it for very good reasons. I own a teeny tiny Sonic because parking is a challenge. So I'll go car because I really can't drive a truck.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Water bottles or tap water?
Well, we have a water cooler in our house with one of those delivered water. So I like some filtered bottled water.
Yeah, me
Even the pets get filtered bottled water.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite household chore?
Oh, I do enjoy laundry.
Okay.
It helps that it's on the second floor, so I don't have to carry it up and down the stairs. I
Yeah.
don't mind doing laundry.
Yeah, I think I really hate household chores in general. That's why I asked you this question, not me. I like dusting. I know that's kind of lame, but I kind of feel like I'm singing like, oh, Cinderella, Cinderella. That's how I do it. Okay, last one. Morning person or night owl?
During the year, I'm a morning person by force. I have my coffee here because before 10 a.m. I'm not always functional, but I don't know. I like mid-afternoon. Like I'm
Okay.
really good from like 3 to 7. That's my prime, 3 to 7.
That's the zone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So those are our high fives, Melissa. I'm glad people get to know you through this as well. Before we leave for the day, are there any final words that you'd like to share?
I don't know who will be watching this. I'll be tweeting this out all the time, but for anybody who hasn't jumped on Twitter, do it. And if you haven't joined a chat, join a chat. Because Phil and I would never have met if I had been like, hey, what's this chat thing? So jump in, be yourself, and people will embrace you. Twitter is a great place, and it's what you make of it. So I thank my Twitter PLN for helping me grow this year, and I look forward to many more interactions with everybody.
Melissa is an absolutely awesome educator. If you are not connected with her, you can find her Twitter handle below in the video and also in the description of the video as well. If you've really enjoyed what you've seen in Edusations today, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter as well. In addition to that, if you or somebody you know is interested in being on the show, they can very easily do so by going to philstrunk.com/contact. Thank you all so much for being on the show. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.